Easy now, folks. I have been promising a update on this Juwel Rio 450 for long enough. So on the 8th of March, it will be 6 months since I've had it. So it's about time I came through on my promise, hey? As you can see, it's going really well. Well, in fact, no. It's a wee bit conceited, isn't it? In my opinion, it's going very, very well. I'm enjoying it, I really am. I don't want to cover old ground, still from the videos that I've already put out in terms of the design of the tank and all the rest of it and some of the features. I still stand by the things that I said before. Some of the features that I was really excited about, I still appreciate. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I'm not too... In fact, there is one thing. You know what I'll do? I'll do a separate video with a couple of small points that maybe could be improved. But otherwise, delighted with the tank. Really love it. Loving every minute with it. I really am. So let's have a wee closer look at some of the things we've got going on, right? Let's start with the filter, which I think is fantastic. You might be seeing some particles floating about, but that's because I was messing about in there a little bit. Generally, it keeps the tank nice and clean and clear. It's really efficient. There's one thing I don't like about it, which I'll put in that other video, but basically I've got the biomedia from my canister in the bottom now, and the rest is the sponge that came with it, from coarse to fine, top to bottom. For me, it does an excellent job. I know some people do have criticisms of it, but again, for me, I think it's unfair. So plants, I tried to use some S-Repins, as you can see. There is some really nice growth, although the rest of it hasn't been doing so well. But what I'm going to do is leave it. I think folk can be too quick to give up on plants. I think sometimes you've got to give them a little bit of time. If I can get it going, it'll make a nice carpet, so we'll see. The Val isn't doing so great, but I didn't expect it to. I've never done great with a Val. I've only ever had one tank where the Val looked really, really nice. So it is what it is. For the background, I was wanting to use cryptocoryne, which is a plant I've used before, and I just think it's fantastic. However, it does take it takes a time to get going, and once it gets going, it really gets going. So that's the tool you just see at the back. In the meantime, just for a bit of life, you can see I've added some Java fern, but I'm not sure. I think I'm probably going to remove that once the balancé really gets going. There's my lace plant, Madagascar lace plant, looking really sorry for itself. The reason for that is the blue acaras were breeding in here, and as I said, my blue acaras don't seem to bother plants. There's the big male there. They don't seem to bother plants until they're breeding. And this big guy keeps digging underneath my lace plant, trying to hide the fry in there. There's his lady as well. Mr. and Mrs. Blue Acara. Fantastic looking, aren't they? Look at these crypts though. These guys are going in. Started with just a couple of small plants, and you can see how well they're doing. Absolutely majestic. That's what I've done with this tank, in fact. I threw in more types of plant than I thought I wanted, but certainly all types that I'd like to keep in here. The idea being to see which does best and continue with that. So this crypt looks like one big bushy plant, but it's actually several new plants beginning. They kind of all grow out in sister plants in bunches. So this is one of the ways that we can propagate it. So what I'm trying to do here is pull a few of those sister plants away. A little bit tricky with one hand here, but oof, pulled off some leaves there, look, made a mess of that, but did get a couple of those new plants, as you can see. I'll have another go at that, see if we can get a few more out. Look at this big acara here, look. What are you doing to my house, you? Bold as anything. There we go. Here's another plant, and you can already see there's another one that's wanting to come with us, look. There we go. Photo bombed by the angelfish and the acara. But there we go. You can see these plants coming away in separate entities, if you like. The remaining bunch of crypts that I've just kind of massacred there will bounce back and fill out again. What we'll do with the ones that we pulled out is we're going to, probably better to use aquarium scissors. What do you call them? Snips, whatever. Take off some of the longer roots and then push the crypt somewhere else. I explained before, I've got a base layer of clay-based substrate under this sand, which is surely what the plants are feeding on. But as you can see, it's a really nice option for creating more plants in your aquarium, for multiplying the plants that you've got. Admittedly, it took 6 months for that bunch to get as big as it has. But now each of the new crypts that we're planting is going to end up producing sister plants, the same as the first did. And it won't be long till we're overrun with crypts eventually. Don't know if you notice, what I'm doing is pushing it way down into the substrate so the roots are reaching the clay at the bottom, and then pulling them up so the crown is just level with the sand. The crown is basically the point where roots become stems. You want to make sure that the stems, the crown point, isn't covered by the substrate, because it can suffocate it and your crypts won't do very well. They might melt a bit anyway. Crypts generally don't like being moved, but they'll spring back. Hopefully you'll see that in videos to come. Although we do have that clay-based substrate underneath the sand, it won't last forever. So I am going to add a root tab underneath each crypt. And I do tend to add root tabs every month, 2 months, in different locations around the root feeding plants, just to make sure they've got enough to keep going. I'll go over something I was wondering about next, which might not occur to everyone or bother everyone, but here's your filter, right? There's all your media. You've got the motor there, and then our heater. So I had wondered how effective it was, because it's encased in the filter. Was some of the heat retained in there and didn't spread evenly throughout the tank? So to measure that, what I did was grab myself a couple of these digital thermometers. This one here is reading 25.8 just now. And I placed another one at the far end of the tank. And as you can see, that one is also coming out at 28.5. Which means although the heater is enclosed within that filter, it does do a good job of spreading the temperature equally. It's one of these probe type, well, 2 of these probe type thermometers that I used. And I've placed them, well, I placed this one, as you can see, pretty much in the middle of the tank at the far end. Tells us what we need to know anyway, doesn't it? Well, maybe I was the only one wondering about that, I don't know. Anyway, a few folk have asked about the tanks underneath, so very quickly we'll run through that. Basically on each end in the cupboards underneath, I've got two Aqua 30 cubes. I have considered upgrading them to 40 cubes. I think there's enough space, but we'll see later on. This one has got my crystal shrimp in it. It's my first attempt with crystal shrimp. Just got a few to see how it goes and if I can do well with them. We've got the blue cherry shrimp tank in the middle. I did the tank build on this last week, was it, I think? And it's going really well. There's one of the adults, and if you look slightly to the right and down a wee bit, there's a wee baby shrimp. There's another to the top left, although it's a wee bit in the far distance, hard to see maybe. But one of the females I added must have been buried that I hadn't noticed. And if the babies are doing well in their new tank, well, must be okay, eh? There's another couple of shrimplets on a wee bit of cuttle bone that I tossed in. So yeah, like I say, seems to be working out. I did reinforce the cabinet underneath these tanks. You can see how I did that in this shrimp tank build that I did. But look at these. Look at these pistos. Oh, fantastic, eh? We'll be seeing some more of them later. But yeah, That's what I've got going on underneath here. Whilst I'm talking about questions from folk, Tracy A asked me, well, she's got the same tank as this one here, and she was asking me about lighting. Now, what I want to do eventually is get one of these night crews, see how I've attached them to the side of the cabinet with these, what do you call them, like adhesive coat hooks, I suppose. So yeah, what I want to do is get another night crew light along there. I did order a third one. I have got a third one, but it came with the plug broke, and I did start the returns process, but got busy and never sent it back. I maybe need to contact Night Crew and see if I can get another plug. So what I've got there now is this Night Crew 18cm clip-on, which I've just sat on top of the tank until I sort that out. But you can fit these over the rims of these tanks, and that was what Tracy was asking. She's got the same tank, and these rims can be awkward. The gap on the clip on these lights though is big enough to fit over the rims, so all you do is pop it over and tighten it on. Now the trick is not to tighten it too much, actually, else it just kind of, well, it snaps over and it doesn't hold at all. But if you tighten the screw just enough so it holds it, then it does actually sit in place, and then you've got the extendable adjustable neck to get into the position that you want. The lids on these wee tanks have cutouts on each side and the back as well, so you can kind of fit it on wherever you like. Might not be the perfect solution. If anyone's got a better solution, drop that in the comments below, but this certainly did work for me. I got these wee Night Crew clip-on lights from Amazon. Anyway, got a bit distracted there, didn't I? We're talking about the Juwel Rio 450, which, yeah, I'm absolutely loving. I think I'm making progress with it. I think it's turning out to be a nice tank. As I said in the other video, fish keeping is about patience sometimes. So those crypt balancés at the back are going to take a while to look really tall and nice, and that's where you'll see some of the fish kind of swimming through them and looking fantastic and that, but I'm not in a rush. I can take my time. I'm sure people that prefer biotype type aquariums are not very happy with me. There's fish from all over the world in this tank, but it works for me. I like the fish, I like the colours, I like the personalities of them. Like I said, the plants are starting to look how I want them to. Long way to go, but, well, there's shortcuts I could have made, right? I could have bought a ton of plants and fired them all in and made it look fantastic from the start, but I try to aim my videos at people that are maybe beginning to mid-stage in their aquarium hobby and maybe don't have an inexhaustible budget. Unfortunately, that comes hand in hand with taking a bit of time sometimes. For me, there's a little more satisfaction in that. I guess the best things in life really do come to those who wait and those that work on it, eh? I kind of feel like you learn more when you do it the hard way, and appreciate it a little bit more too. Anyway, what's one of the most enjoyable things about our hobby? Defrosting a big load of frozen food and watching them chow down on it. If there's anything else you would like to know about this aquarium, please ask. If I can give you the answer, I will. If not, I mean, the community is brilliant. Sometimes other people are able to give you the solution or the answer to your query. I definitely feel like it's one of the nicer big tanks that I've had in my time in the hobby. Said a few times now that I really like it, and I am not changing my tune on that. I will do that video on a couple of things that I think could be improved, but I wouldn't let that put you off. It is really a fantastic tank. I would recommend it. And for now, I'm out. Later.